I'd never had to work in a team where you're like the only black person. And trust me, that is a whole different dynamic. Today we are comparing auditing the US, the UK, and auditing in Zimbabwe, which I think maybe is synonymous to Africa. I don't think there's something different. Hello, my name is Mochi Famba. I'm a chartered accountant living and working in Zimbabwe, and I make videos about careers, auditing, traveling, and money. And today we are comparing how the auditing experience of the US versus the UK versus in Zimbabwe, because I've worked in those three jurisdictions, and we're just going to just have a chit chat. Now, this is based on my experience. You might have a different experience, and it's also valid. Please sound off in the comment section. And if you like this video or this type of content, please like and show me that you actually like this content, so that I can find the strength to continually keep making content like this. And also, the disclaimer is audit is audit, guys. Work is work. Whether you're working in the US, whether you're working in Zim, whether you're working in Colombia in London, work is work. And it's not anything company specific that I'm going to discuss here. Let me know if you want me to do all the big fours the same. Anyway, I'm going to group these into 6. I've written them down on my script, and we're just going to talk about that. We're going to talk about number 1, diversity. Diversity, I just mean, let's just talk about the people in the team, their opinions and their views. So when I was working in Zim, we were predominantly, everyone on the team was black. And when I then started working remotely, find myself as the only black person in the team. So it's white people, it's Asians, it's Indians. Indians, not Asians. It's Indians, and it's a very, like it or not, admit it or not, it's a very difficult or different dynamic. Now, please note that I've been on conferences where I've been representing the entire country, and there are Africans, Europeans, Americans, and because over there I was chairperson of the board or whatever, I was representing the country, or I was giving a speech about my experience. It never felt like there are white people here. But when you are actually working with those diverse people every day, it can present different dynamic from what you are used to. So for example, even the whole thing about being able to speak Shona at work, I'm Dara, just not being able to say that, just not being able to express what you're thinking or talk other nyayas in Shona. Like, I've heard about people talking about the English band or depleting. I think they were speaking to, not necessarily not being able to speak English, to that diversity that you're not used to having this every day, being the only black person, feeling like you're carrying the entire race on your shoulders to prove that you also can do it, or however you're feeling about race. It's something that you cannot predict how you will feel about until you are part of it. But that's how we learn, and that's how we grow. Now I can assimilate very well in such circumstances or such environments, but before, it took a knock on my self-confidence. I had to be like, do I really know how to audit? Do I really know how to audit revenue? Do I really know if it's 50? Worse if it's in the US, where you are also even learning ASC 606, because you're like, is ASC 606 the same as if it's 15? You start the self-doubt, the inferiority complex, it comes in. there. So you have to be aware of it, and you have to grow through it, which is actually a good thing, because you actually grow through it. It reveals you to yourself, and you get to grow through it. Now I'm fine with it, but before the beginning it was just like I can't spend, even when you're trying to explain something, sometimes when you're explaining to your senior, you're like, I'm done, I'm just going to out the A, B, C, D, but like over there you can't use language as a way of relating. Yeah, that's the thing. You can't use a language as a way of relating. You can't use skin as a way of relating. You have to find other things on how to relate. When they're talking about, where were you on vacation last year? Where were you? Different cultures. The long and short is you start interacting with different skin tones, different cultures, different beliefs than your own. In Zimbabwe, we can sort of bracket race, we're all black. Cultures, they're different, but we're almost the same. Beliefs, we're different, but we're almost the same. But when you get into teams in the UK and the US, you are so different. You have to learn to live with views, opinions, and work together with views and opinions that are different from your own, and sometimes vastly different, because even the skin tone is different. So for diversity, Zim doesn't really have diversity. The best is the UK's, because they have a lot of other nationalities. For the teams that I've worked in, it's not just US people, it's US, UK, Germany, people from Germany and stuff. So the diversity was best in the US, then UK, then Zim, which is going to bring me to second point, which is the work ethic. When you see my auditors who go to UK, the first thing that I'll tell you is, guys, kuno shandwa. Let me be one to corroborate. Kuma countries kuno shandwa, guys. So for me, my longest audit was, when we went out of town, and we were there for 2-3 months, and we were working up to 10 p.m. and we were working like that for straight 2 months, and we were working also on Saturdays, and then we would have Sundays off. And I was like, this is so exhausting. I feel fatigued, I feel tired. But you know what, when you were working, you could take like a break, talk to your senior while you're busy on your work paper. You're busy on your work paper, and you're talking, and then at some point you remember, I'm working. Then you go back to work. Yes, you're waking up to 10 p.m. but you are having like those mini breaks, mini whatever, and periods of not really high productivity. But when you start working for the US and the UK, if you say you spent 8 hours on a task, it better be 8 hours, because they count their hours to the second, especially for the US. If you are working on something for 5 hours, it better be 5 hours. Their work ethic is so different from here. That's why you see, I think people who come back from out of the country, when why they're given these roles sometimes, or why they progress faster. I think, I don't have statistics for this, but their work ethic is so different from ours. Even I see people come from the US, UK on their customer service front, etc. Customer is really king when, So same with audit. Work ethic for UK, US is so different from Zim. So US, UK, Zim, that's the ranking. In the US, you bring your best self. In the UK, you bring your best self. In Zim, you could get away with not bringing your best self, So the work ethic is so different. Work-life balance, yeah. In Zim, if your sekuru dies, you can actually negotiate leave to go kurufuka sekuru, all that thing. In Zim is the best work-life balance, I think. I think you tend to live a better balanced life in Zim than you do in the other countries. I don't know whether this is because you're a family or stuff, I don't know, but because of the work ethic in the US, I think the balance is sort of off. You know, in Zim it's very easy to make friends with the people that you're working with, because the one time you're talking about sekuru bako, the other time you're talking about this, you know. In the US, when they're working, they're not even checking their phones. And in Zim, you are working while you have your WhatsApp web on. Yeah. So, on work-life balance, I think also in the US, the overtime is super intense. As I said, I've worked from we finish work at 5. I've worked for 5 hours overtime. That's like 25 hours overtime. That's 65 hours a week in Zim. 65 hours a week in Zim and 65 hours a week in the US are different. Maybe it's also because of the stricter regulations of the stock exchange in the US in terms of requirements, the SO Act, the SOX law, I don't know what you call it. Then the standard, the different standard that they have to adhere to, the controls testing, the report on controls. Maybe that is why they need more time, more hours on the audit. So when it comes to businesses, and you have more balance, you have the best balance in Zim. In the UK as well, they are a bit more balanced off. Yes, they will require your 8 hours to be legit 8 hours. However, they don't fast. They don't expect you to be working 70-hour work weeks like the US does. Like in the US, it's very easy to push 80, 70 hours. So in terms of work-life balance, Zim, UK, and the US as the last one. And then work environment, I think Zim is the healthiest work environment. We're not just talking about work, we're talking about families, we're talking about other things while we're at work. We're grabbing lunch together, you know, you're going to pick up your kids from school, all those things. That, and the work environment, maybe it's also familiarity because there's not too much diversity in the work environment, but I do rank Zimbabwe's work environment the best, then UK, then US. I'm not saying people don't ask you how you are. They do, just different from, like in other jurisdictions it's more like a formality, like, oh hi, how are you, okay, as per our last discussion last week or yesterday, where are we, you know. Here in Zim, it's, oh, how are you, how are the kids, how was school, oh okay, I needed an invoice. so there is that. So I do think that the work environment in Zimbabwe is healthier than everywhere else. Then we're going to talk about exposure. I think the US and the UK expose you to different industries and better ways to do things. So I'm more of techie. I audit companies in tech. That's where my primary experience is. So in Zim, you audit a tech company, and yes, they will you know, download the evidence you need and bring you hard copies. In the US, I don't know what part of this is influenced by the fact that I'm not on site, but it seems like normal for you to even get access to download the things on your own on the company's portal. That doesn't allow you to edit, but you can download whatever invoices you want to access on your own. They just create a profile for you. And even the things that the companies do, the operations, the business environment, when you're doing an analytic, for example, an analytic review of, let's say, the balance sheet in Zim, you can get away with just saying there was inflation. That's why there was an increase in cash. There was inflation. Inflation was at 560%, and cash improved by 560%. You know, that sort of thing. But in the US and the UK, because they don't have inflation as such a huge factor, you have to actually go deep and figure out why do these things move, and you get more understanding of the movements and the operations beyond the other fallback factors that we have in Zim. So I do think that the exposure coupled with the diversity is better in the US and the UK. As long as you bring your best self to work, they're not afraid to give you responsibility. You'll be able to work, you'll be able to understand your client, you'll be able to do the things that you want to do. So I do think that the exposure is best in the US, and the UK is better than it is here at home. Maybe it's also because at home you'd be auditing a company that you've been on, a client you've been on for the past 3 years. So there isn't really much to learn on that client. I don't know, but yeah, I found that there was so much to learn in the US and the UK companies. However, let's talk about growth in the type of work that you do. I find that I had more responsibility before I qualified than I had when I qualified, because when you get to the UK and the US, they give you responsibility for the file, but they don't really trust you with the file like Zim does. And sometimes Zim does that because maybe the senior is left mid-work or whatever has happened, but I feel like in Zim you get to have the best responsibility. Now exposure and responsibility are different. Like in Zim, by the time I was level 4, level 5, I was running a client, I was preparing client budget, I was having partner-led meetings, I'm the one running the thing. The file is truly mine, the team, everything. I am running with that thing, right? But then in the UK and the US, yes, you're given you are a senior, in charge, but it's not the same as senior in charge back home. It's not. And in terms of growth, if you want to grow, like in terms of responsibility and what it is that you do, you have to then fall back into the Zim. I feel like Zim allows you to grow at a much faster rate than the countries do. But then if you're going to then go to the countries, then maybe the growth will be disqualified because one go to senior or AM or whatever it is. But if you want to stay in Zim, and do like FD roles, etc, I think staying in Zim will allow you to grow at a faster rate because the responsibility comes at you, and it comes at you fast, and you get to learn and you get to grow. Then the last thing I want to talk about is, would it even be a more channel if we didn't talk about the shamanim? Now the US asks you to work. I told you, like, the work ethic and the work-life balance in the US is off, right? Work ethic is the best. You're trained to work and work and work. In terms of work-life balance, it's zero in order, like 0, 0, 0, 0. But here's the good thing, the silver lining: you get paid for it. I made the most money auditing the US than auditing the UK than auditing Zim. Why? So even the best salaries, I think they're actually higher in the US than they are in the UK. Then for every overtime, remember we said that you work super long hours in the US. Maybe we need to clarify that. You work super long hours in the US. They will pay you for that overtime, or at least they did for the company that I was working for. You get paid for that overtime. In the US, I've seen so many people say that they're not paid overtime in the UK, but in the US I got paid, and in Zim you also get paid for your overtime. It's just that in Zim it's just that in Zim the best is so low, so we can't even talk about the overtime in Zim. But you do get paid for every hour that you put above your 40 hours in Zim. I'm testament that I always got paid for every hour that I got paid, that I worked after 40 hours. But if you want to make the most money, it's in the US, then the UK, then Zim. If you want to grow, it's in Zim, maybe the UK, then the US. Work environment, it's Zim, UK, US. Work-life balance, Zim, UK, US. Work ethic, US, UK, Zim. Diversity, US, UK, Zim. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know if there are any other videos that you'd like to know about audit, working in the US, working in the UK, working in Zim. I was working on all this from Zim. I have not left Zim to go work out of Zim. I've served clients and firms in the US and in the UK from Zim, but I have not really gone to work there physically, so I don't know about the cultural part outside the work environment. Maybe if I was there physically in person, we could talk about other nyayas. But I'm telling you, my friends in the UK tell me the same, that in the UK you get there, you put your earphones, you start working. You're not, the days I used to go to the office, like I used to go to the office like once maybe every month at Deloitte. I would get there, put my lunch bag, put my laptop bag, put whatever there, my charger and everything. Go on a round trip around the office, greeting everyone, ask them how they are, grabbing lunch, grabbing breakfast, grabbing tea, just associating and being friends and being a lovely person. I loved working at Deloitte because of that. But my friends who loved the same thing tell me that it's not the same in the UK or in the US. Maybe in the US, but not in the UK. It's meant for himself to sangana pabasa, to sangana file. So thank you guys for stopping. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Leave a comment below. What do you think? If you've worked in the UK and in Zim, what do you think? Let me know what you think in the comment section, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.